shelves in Koriyama town. The cream box smiles, no frowns around. Soft and sweet with a glowing hue. It's the perfect snack for me and you. Radioactive cream box, a treat. The core is still melting, but this bread is sweet. Fukushima's gift, just take a bite.
Hello, everybody.
It's alright, alright.
Radioactive cream boxes. A box of death they're given to the kids in Fukushima. That cracks me up. Hello, everybody. Here we go. It's 709-589. We're in Canada. 4406. 709-589-4406. Hope you're doing well. On this Monday, the 31st, the last day of March, we got a good show for you tonight. I got a good show for you tonight. I screwed up here. My apologies. Here we go. Any second. Yeah, there we go. Hi, everyone. Switzerland nuclear reactor was stopped due to a power grid failure. The nuclear power plants are dependent upon external power, and so every nuclear power plant has two dedicated gas, oil, or coal plants. And you'd be better off, because when you take these two gas, oil, and coal plants, you're producing as much power as you are from nuclear. So nuclear is about the fuel cycle, so they can exterminate you with the perpetual radioactive fallout from the fuel pools and the species, right? They target all species, not just humans. Due to a failure of connection to the power grid, there is no danger. They always got to put these connotations there. Yes, there is a danger. Of course there's a danger. You got no external power. The reactors need 1 million gallons a minute, 4,500 tons a minute. Each reactor is equal to 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks driving past your house every single minute. 1,440 minutes a day, 365 days a year after year, decade after decade. If they don't get their water for 50 minutes, the reactors will start melting down. It's hard to comprehend there's so many corrupt people on the planet. But that was the only way the industry could exist, was it had to corrupt everything. And it done that by taking over the universities and then putting people in key positions that were corruptible or corrupted. I got to go down that road here for a second. Hang on. So the nuclear power plant has a lot of flaws. Once you take the fuel out of the reactor core after 14 months, you're still splitting atoms. There's no longer containment. And that's why all nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms. A lot of struggle glasses there sometimes, eh? So many things can get them dirty on you, and then that's so difficult then. That's so difficult and it's dirty. Bad enough as it is, right? Oh, holy shit, look at all you people out there. There's 11 of you. 11 special people here tonight. Hello, you wonderful souls. Is Fukushima worldwide massive, ongoing radioactive fallout the catalyst behind the extinction level event that we're seeing? So we're seeing an extinction event post-Fukushima that has escalated. And now we're seeing the mass extermination of whales, birds, the migratory species, all by starvation. We've broken the food chain. And this industry is desperate to silence any dissenting voices. Due to a failure of connection to the power grid, there is no danger. So when they tell you there's no danger, clearly there's a danger. Is a threat also supporting Russia's war in Ukraine, Iran? I don't know why they threw that in there, but... Oh, that's the wrong story. Wrong click. Switzerland has decided to gradually abandon nuclear energy, but existing power plants can operate as long as they're considered safe. There is no such thing as a safe nuclear. How can it be safe? The EU says Iran threatens global order and supports talk to stop nuclear armament. Well, how can Iran threaten so-called global order, for starters? They have a land, sea, and air embargo against them for 40 years. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. They have over 50 military bases from United Kingdom, America, and Israel on their borders. Right on their borders. If that's not an act of aggression, what actually is, I wonder? Because each of those military bases are nuclear, chemical, biological weapons, amongst everything else. They're carrying out electronic warfare against the country's banks. They're looting the kids' telephone minutes just to fund a lot of their dark operations. The whole system is just... Japan has just announced, we haven't got the headline tonight, that they're going to make batteries out of depleted uranium. So remember, they have always told you depleted uranium had no energies whatsoever. So how are you going to make a battery out of something with no energy then? And why don't you use wood? Why does it have to be depleted uranium? I thought it had no energy. It's impossible to light the nuclear industry. They don't have a redeeming quality. They don't have a single person in the industry that the world relates to. On top of that, European Union foreign policy chief warned on Monday that Iran poses a serious threat to the global stability, must never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. Well, that's the only thing that's going to bring peace in it. Otherwise, Israel's just going to pick everybody off. They're the threat. During a press conference in Jerusalem. Now, why the goodness sakes would the European Union give a press conference in Jerusalem in Israel, which belonged to Palestine, by the way, utter the words that Iran must never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon? My goodness, eh? Blatantly corrupt. You can barely tolerate any of these people for more than a few moments. She claims he said, we are now fighting the war of the free world. Of the free world. Like, really? Who's free besides Israel? In the Middle East, nobody. It's just a plague on humanity. Iran, Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah attacked us. Yeah, because you've been at war against the entire Middle East since you showed up there. Literally like a plague. He said after last week saw 3 of Iran's allies once again firing on the Jewish state. First off, Israel is invading all of the countries where these people are too. They're allowed to fight back. Israel's not the only person out there allowed to have... Of course, Israel is the fourth biggest weapons producer on the planet. It's just a scourge on humanity. Finland's Fortum says building a new nuclear power is too expensive for now. Too expensive. Well, why did you use geothermal? I think there's something else going on that we're not aware of, right? Vice President for New Nuclear told Reuters declining to give it any cost or price estimates for new nuclear production. Well, everything is quadruple whatever budget they originally come out with. Oh, we could do it for like $7 billion. So multiply that by 4. And we could do it in 6 years and multiply that by 2 to 3. And then you're getting close to the real numbers. They really are just scumbags, eh? And it's not like writers couldn't come up with their own cost estimate. Vice President for New Nuclear told Reuters declining to give it any cost estimates. Well, why talk to them in the first place if they're not going to be cooperative? UK nuclear waste project advances deep borehole disposal. That's that skank and her dad. They're now partnering up with the United Kingdom. I really didn't think they were going to go anywhere, that particular company. I knew they raised a bunch of money originally. Like instantly, they raised over $100 million. And this is their contraption. They're going to put fuel in it and drop it, drill down several thousand feet a hole and drop it down in the hole. In one way, it's a better solution than putting it all down in the same hole, because it's going to melt down. Each one of these holes will melt down at some point. And so, if you put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, they're all going to melt down at the same time, like the Canadians are trying to do, right? The Nuclear Waste Management Organization, the vultures, the parasites here in Canada. Don't get me wrong, these people are parasites too. What's up with the purple light? What's that all about? Trying to make it look something cool, is it? More kooky public relations stuff. A prototype canister. Well, I can't see how that's going to last very long. What's the fuel? Like, first off, the gamma shines, the neutrons, the betas, the X-rays, the alpha will just break down the integrity of whatever kind of containment you try to put around it through what's known as a Wigner effect, where it destroys the integrity of any material. It compromises the material. It becomes very fragile, very brittle. But on top of that, you're talking about an enormous amount of heat generated once you can try to contain it. It's a nightmare. It's not supposed to exist on the planet. Oh, that's right, too. I really disrespect that creature up in the corner there. These types of people shouldn't exist. They're the worst ones, right? That's why I say that. Nano nuclear energy, they don't have a product. They haven't acquired land. They don't have an application into the regulatory agency for the design, for the licensing. They don't have. They haven't bought land. They haven't acquired the infrastructure. And these are very lengthy processes we're talking about in the decades. And so why are they on the stock market? They don't have a product. It's the only industry out there that doesn't have a product is out there on the stock market robbing the unsuspecting investors. There's no investors in the mom and pop operations that see these stocks artificially inflated for a couple of weeks by 14 of the biggest banks on the planet. Right, since the Conference of Parties 29 in Bakuk last year, 14 of the biggest financial institutions said they were going to back nuclear. Nobody really understood what that meant. What it meant was they were going to buy stocks for, like, by the millions, 6, 7, 8, 9 million stocks for 2 or 3 weeks. And then the media then would go and say, look at these stocks. They're climbing like crazy. It's time to buy. And everybody would buy into it who didn't know any better. And then the big banks now, when the stocks climb up, they'll sell their 6, 7, 8 million shares, make a bundle of money. And then the small-time investor who didn't understand what was really going on gets caught and loses 20, 30, 40% of their investment. So they panic and sell their shares. And those are the people that worked all their lives in factories and everything else. And so the stock market, clearly, it's, like, been doing this for a long time, but post-Fukushima, the stock market has been just unbelievably evil. And the media promoting. I'm surprised there's not a lot of people looking for payback. The average session volumes was 5 million shares, but there was only a 1.15. I guess there are pains of conscience in the stock market for a few days. Don't buy shares in nuclear, for goodness sakes. Don't buy shares in small modular reactors. They don't exist. Do the basic research. I've done presentations on it for you on my site. The Idiot of UK, largest ever nuclear submarine that can carry 144 warheads. Why are you building stuff like that? Your country's ran into the ground. Your pensioners who worked all their life to build your country have been abandoned. Your hospitals are just pathetic. Your government is just revolting. And you're burning all your money on nuclear weapons and nuclear submarines. Literally, they're doing everything they can but invest money in the country. And then you bring in all the invaders to the point now where nobody even recognizes. So there's nothing great about Britain anymore, let's put it that way. We'll displace 17,000 tons of water and carry a crew of 130 slaves. And you can't use the weapons. What's the point of it? A deterrent then. Shut your pie hole. Nobody's going to attack your shitland. It'll be armed with 12 Trident 2 D5s, blah, 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 with a range of 7,500 miles or 12,000 kilometers. You don't need the bombs, right? You just pretend you got bombs. Not like you're ever going to have a nuclear war. And then look what you've done to your entire country with radioactive fallout from Sellafield, for goodness sakes. It's disgusting. You're idiots. You had every right to stop it, you had the ability to stop it, and you never even tried. 26 miles will contain 26 miles of pipes, 20,000 miles of cables for something that you can't use. Just go out, float around in the ocean, provoking China and Russia. As an estimate, cost of roughly $39 billion. $39 billion. Do you know how much geothermal they can build with $39 billion? It's absurd. Enough to power half the country, probably. All the little puppets are dressed up in their nines. The pandering that these people go through. The first deal was cut October 6, 2016, 9 years ago. Hot functional testing begins at Slovakia's nuclear plant. Look at the Speak Disease factory. See the farms in the background? So when I went looking pictures of it, but here's what I found. Here's another one. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms as far as you can see? Work began in 1987. Really? Almost 40 years ago. 87, 97, 2007. Yeah, almost 40 years ago. Typical of nuclear, isn't it? Based on the 2025 budget, what could Australia buy for $46 billion? Each of the submarines Australia is building is $46 billion. How can you not hate this industry? How can you not just despise this industry? $46 billion. So what could Australia buy instead of just a single one of their idiot nuclear submarines? It's so stupid. Welcome to the world's stupidest industry. They can tax cut $17 billion. They can put $10 billion towards housing fund, $8.4 billion bulk billing increases. I'll figure it out in a minute for you. 33% job seeker increase, $5.5 billion. Nurses' wages increases for $2.5 billion. Disaster relief, they need that for $2 billion. School funding. We don't know what the final figure will be. It'll probably be a lot more than that, right? $46 billion. $46 billion for something that has no purpose. Don't take care of your country, take care of your military. The military is to the point, all the militaries now are to the point where they're consuming the countries to keep themselves relevant. They're literally consuming all the precious resources and materials in the countries because they don't want nothing only the best. The best steel, the best titanium, the best everything. They divide it into the potential number of submarines, 8. So you're going to build 8 of these submarines at $46 billion a pop. Nothing screams stupid and idiot and moron like that does. That's literally the stupidest thing you're going to read today. How's the censorship tonight, I wonder? I'm afraid to look. We got 12 viewers, do we? 9 likes. What a show I've been doing for over a decade. The cowards. Reducing the lowest marginal tax rate from 16% to 15% next year and then to 14% the year after the centerpiece. But even this won't get you half a nuclear sub. And so whatever they could do is what they can't do now because they're spending their money on the submarines. Or that they can't even dream of. It takes adding they can bail their country out with this money, be in the green. They can produce all geothermal. In fact, they can produce enough geothermal to power the country, the population, 2.5 times. We've done those numbers, right? For the amount of money they're going to spend on the submarines, they can power their entire country geothermal. And if they had started in a couple of years ago when they framed all of this stuff, when they first started announcing they were coming out to get submarines, then they would have a huge amount of geothermal up and running. You're going to have to get rid of politicians and just hire people like 6 months a year to do the paperwork for what your country needs. You can't give anybody in the government the so-called authority, give them what you call a designation of authority. The minute they get that designation, they're going to spend the rest of their life cutting your throats. They have nothing for care nurses. They got nothing for inflation. They got nothing for disaster relief. Everything's gone to the nuclear subs. Nothing for people for work. Everything's gone to the military. The military is just raping everything, so to speak. In order to exist, it has to consume the entire country. It's so stupid, isn't it? It's disgusting, right? The nuclear industry spoils everything. You can't have nothing on the planet because the nuclear industry exists. Fukushima faces a typhoon-like winds causing major disruptions. The dairy coal event down there, apparently. on the 26th, a few days ago. Terrestrial Energy to become the first publicly traded molten salt nuclear reactor developer. Another company that's going to be on the stock exchange that don't have a product. That's what I mean. This industry, the whole entire industry is just, they're lunatics, right? Terrestrial Energy's plants will supply zero carbon. Again, every time you hear the word zero carbon, the carbon footprint was a public relation campaign by PP Oil after one of their oil tankers wrecked the coastline. And the United Nations snatched that up then and then weaponized it against humanity ever since. Everybody should rate BP Oil the more I'm telling you how much you disrespect them. How can you call the most resource-intensive industry in history clean or zero carbon or anything else? It's the most carbon-intensive industry, period, bar nothing. And it's the most expensive industry. They call it low cost. Everything they say, you have to look at what's the opposite, and then you're on the right trail. Firm. What do you mean firm? Applications include data center power supplies. So we should destroy the environment so nuclear can destroy the environment a bit more. It's an industry that is not gonna run its course. The planet is eventually going to turn on this industry because they are just getting so evil. Or every single week they ratchet up their attack upon the future of humanity. And then the radioactive fallout from Fukushima is causing an extinction event worldwide. What are you going to do when the whales are gone in a couple of years? And within the next decade, there'll be no whales. There'll be no migratory seabirds. There's barely any now, sure. Everything we got out there is emaciated. You really think that it can keep going that way? Green fuel sectors. Enrich uranium to under 5%. Still, it's enriched uranium means it's plutonium mixed oxide fuel, right? The high thermal stability of molten salt coolant. Where's the stability when you don't even have a product? And that every molten salt reactor, like the Rico Fermi reactor melted down, the Santa Susana molten salt reactor melted down, the Idaho molten salt reactor melted down. I don't think you got a single one on the planet that didn't melt down and contaminated humanity for 1 billion years. Additionally, terrestrial energy's plant design is well suited for repurposing existent, and they snatched this narrative off of Quatsi Electric, which is going to do geothermal and replace gas, oil, and coal plants with geothermal. And nuclear, we could do that too. Remember a few years back when we used to cover all this? All of a sudden, all the nuclear come out saying, and we can put small modular reactors can replace gas and oil and coal plants, right? Which was what Quatsi Electric was saying for 3 years before that. They haven't come up with a new design since 1904 or something. Right, the current generation in the nuclear industry are the inbreeds, for goodness sakes. They're just coasting, right? They're the entitled idiots. In 2022, the Department of Energy Commission report found 80% of all retired and operating coal power plant sites can be host an advanced nuclear reactor totaling 290 sites in 2022. In 2019, Quatsi Electric Geothermal came out and said they can do the exact same thing. 3 years later, the small modular reactor comes in and says, as if they were the first ones to come up with the idea. They never come up with the first. They always steal people's idea, and even then they can't bring it to fruition because 90% of the money that they get goes to administration, which means they're stealing it. That's why they're always 4 times over budget, because they're just insidious, evil, greedy little creeps. They really are creepy too, right? You don't have anybody in the nuclear industry that you don't look at and call a chicken neck. That you don't say, well, that's a coward right there. That their friends don't look at them and call them cowards right to their faces. Like their childhood buddies, whenever they come home, their friends will call them, hey, coward, come over here. And they'll go over there and put their head down. We believe the proposed business combination. We firmly believe in the transformative nature, the safe, reliable, low-cost power. I mean, it's such garbage. We believe. And so there was this, we believe, right? You know, we believe. We firmly believe. And safe, reliable, we believe. No, yeah, but nobody else believes you, right? We believe. And we see that all the time, don't we, in these campaigns, where you'll see this keyword. It gets used everywhere. That's how they do the indoctrination, apparently. All it does me is piss me off when I see it. Uniquely positioned to capitalize on accelerating enthusiasm for nuclear energy. What are you talking about? Accelerating enthusiasm. What the hell are you talking about? It's like you got the same amount of gigawatts in 1996 as you do today. There is no nuclear renaissance. Last year, in 2024, there was 660 gigawatts of solar powered came online, which is almost twice the total capacity of nuclear in 12 months. There is no nuclear renaissance. Accelerating enthusiasm. Whoever wrote that should be fired. That came from the International Atomic Energy. These are complicated stories, right? So you can be sure the journalists didn't write it. They put their name on it. They build up an audience with cat videos and house plants and stuff like that. And then the nuclear industry will send them these stories and they'll put their name on it and try to hoodwink their audience into investing into these scumbags. Let's play zero carbon, reliable, dispatchable, low cost, high temperature. Name a single nuclear plant on the planet that is low cost, reliable, zero carbon, dispatchable. It doesn't exist, and it's not going to. Rapid global decarbonization. So they just got their little playbook. They clip out these little narratives, and they build it into a story. They send it off to a newspaper, and the newspaper gets a kickback from the International Atomic Energy Agency. There's nobody out there that responds to that narrative. See, it's not an honest narrative. But they're so caught up in their stupid little degrees. Terrestrial Energies engaged with regulators, suppliers, and industry partners to build, license, commission the first plant in the early 2030s. So why are you on the stock market now? Nobody's good. Even if you do come to fruition in 15 or 20 years, why would anyone want to invest in you when you're just totally speculating, like another 100 different companies out there just like you, all speculating? No product, no foreseeable products. Why are you on the stock markets? Hang on. Just give me one second there. Clean my sinuses. Yeah, there are cases. I have no faith because we've been covering this so long. You'd be insane to invest in these types of companies. And you can tell because they put so much effort into their fake narrative, right? They dilute it so much, you know they have no Once you realize they got no product, then you understand what they're doing here, right? They're doing everything they can to convince the unsuspecting. The words anticipate, believe, continue, could, estimate, expect, intend, may, might, plan, possible, potential, predict, project, should, would, could, and similar expressions may identify forward-looking statements, but the absence of these words does not mean that a statement is not forward-looking. The absence of these statements. They don't have a product. They don't have a license into the regulatory agency. They don't have a supply chain. They don't have a site. They don't have a regulatory approved site on top of that. They don't, like, all of these processes takes together are going to take a few decades. So even if everything went their way, and the nuclear industry's been given all the money it wants. It's been given rubber stamps for all the applications and licensings, and it still can't produce a single thing. And all they do is take away from the ability to produce real power. And despite the setbacks because they're the only ones that are put on a pedestal, the solar industry still put out 660 gigawatts, which is equal to 700 large nuclear power plants in 12 months last year. And they're expecting at least a 30 to 40% increase this year. And no effort is being put into geothermal. And these companies will fire up and they'll get $1 billion. They're going to sell their stocks and they're going to raise $400 million. The geothermal can't get on the stock market. It can't raise any money. It's got to hope for a meager handout. And then it can only produce a very fraction of it. If it doesn't do it on scale, then all the media will come out and demonize them immediately. Nuclear can screw up forever, and the industry calls it a nuclear renaissance. Off with their heads. Nuclear energy stocks to consider demand for clean power grows. Nuclear energy stock to consider demand for clean power grows. Yeah, here's another one, surrounded by farms, as far as you can see. Nuclear energy is emerging as a key solution to the world's growing electricity demand to transition to cleaner power. But it's not, is it? Like, what are you talking about? No one gives a shit about nuclear, except for the idiots in the industry themselves. The rest of the world doesn't want anything to do with it. And then the old garbage can diagnosis. Unlike solar and wind, which depends on weather conditions, nuclear plants operate around the clock. Well, what about geothermal? Because when you put geothermal into the equation, that narrative garbage can diagnosis doesn't work no more, does it? And why would you do wind and solar before you done geothermal? So you do geothermal and back it up with wind and solar and storage. And there's quite a lot of tangible, amazing technologies for storage. And batteries is not one of them. Every time you hear the word battery, then you know that's meant to manipulate the population and into not coming up with a solution. Unlike other clean energy. Well, first off, nuclear is dependent upon 2 gas, oil, and coal plants dedicated to them 24 hours a day. You really think they run on nothing? You really think they're going to run on thin air? Like each reactor, just how much energy does it take to put 1 million gallons in the reactor in a minute? 4,500 tons in a minute. 4,500 1-ton pickup trucks each minute full of water with 1,000 liters. So 4,500 1-ton pickup trucks each minute. How much energy would it take you to make that happen every minute? It's a stupid amount of energy, isn't it? But it's only a fraction of the energy you need for a nuclear site. And solar and wind, if you use compressed air storage, where you have compressors, you dig mine shafts and compress air down there, and then you have water batteries. You dig 2 reservoirs, and you pump water up to the top one with excess energy. So the wind's not blowing, the sun's not shining, you got tons of backup power. But the wind and solar and storage is backing up geothermal, which runs 24 hours a day, and everything can be recycled, unlike a nuclear. Unlike clean energy. So they're demonizing everything, and they still can't get a nuclear renaissance. They've done every dirty trick in the book, including they constantly vilify any kind of renewable, and they refuse to acknowledge geothermal or any kind of storage outside of batteries exist. Nuclear plants provide consistent diseases. Once you take the fuel out of the reactor core after 14 months, they're splitting atoms forever. So within 1,000 miles of a nuclear plant is a disease factory. The demand for clean electricity. What demand? Nobody gives a fuck if it's clean. Increasing temperatures. And how are you going to get clean anyway when you're trying to power 1 million homes and businesses? Does anybody really expect that to be clean? Geothermal is the closest you're going to get to it. Nuclear is not clean. Nuclear is the dirtiest industry in human history, bar nothing. Well, nuclear is dirtier than all other industries combined on top of that. Increasing temperatures leading to a higher use of air conditioners. Increasing temperatures is a phenomenon that started after Fukushima melted down, after 36 reactor cores in Japan melted down. There's 8 reactor cores in the fuel pools at the top of each of the 4 buildings. It's interesting, though, that they use that narrative, isn't it? Nuclear plants require much less space to produce the same volume of electricity compared to other clean sources. Idaho National Laboratory is 1,000 square miles. Hanford is 585 square miles. There's a whole lot of these national laboratories you don't include into it. They're like the waste from Hanford alone, just from the Manhattan Project, is enough to fill up an aquarium with liquid radioactive sludge, like splitting atom stuff. They dumped it into the ground. It's enough to build an aquarium 6 feet wide, 518 feet tall, wrapped around the entire planet. A 518 foot tall wall of nuclear waste wrapped around the entire planet more than once. That's just one site. You really think Russia and China and everybody else didn't do the same thing? And everything's splitting atoms into the environment, making sure there is no future? Nuclear plants require much less space to produce the same volume. That sounds like a Rod Adams story, doesn't it? I can see Rod Adams' hands all over that story. Report shows geothermal can meet 64% of artificial intelligence energy demand boom. Well, that's just with the technology, the obsolete technology. All those fusion companies out there now, there's like 100 of them. There's 100 small modular reactor companies, 101. And they're all scooping in a $500 million or $1 billion or $2 billion a year. Geothermal total doesn't see $1 billion. And so what would happen if you tipped the scale, if you put the hype behind geothermal for 1 year? Well, you wouldn't be looking at small modular reactors. Anything a small modular reactor can do, geothermal can do better. Independent research body says geothermal energy can almost single-handedly solve the artificial intelligence energy demand boom. The United States says they're going to put in close to 70 gigawatts, which is equal to 70 large nuclear power plants, plus 80 large nuclear power plants of geothermal energy. And there's some really great technology out there to get drilled deeper, faster, more efficient, less damage to the drill bits, using pneumatic water slicers at 25,000 pounds per square inch to slice up your rocks, and pneumatic hammers to crush that, and then the drill bit goes down through that. It'll be 4, 5, 6 times quicker drilling and way deeper, right? So you can get into the 1,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, which supersedes gas, oil, and coal temperatures and nuclear temperatures. Analysts estimate just over $700 million of financing has been contributed to overall geothermal projects. $700 million in financing since 2020. So its entire history is around $700 million. Nuclear spends that on coffee breaks, for Christ's sakes. The investment in nuclear energy will exceed $150 billion each year. Nuclear gets $700 million over its lifetime. Nuclear gets $150 billion each year. And they still can't increase their gigawatt worldwide. Because they steal most of it, see? Because they're just a bunch of scumbags. And everybody knows that, except for them, apparently. By 2030, the current level of $65 billion per year. Geothermal gets nothing. Speaking of Hanford contractors were dinged $10 million for claims of some excessively lazy workers. They didn't want to use the word lazy, so they called them idle. No, it's lazy. You're at one of the most dangerous sites on the planet. If you worked on that site in your history for 8 hours and you got sick, you don't have to prove you got sick at Hanford. You just got to prove you worked at Hanford for 8 hours, and you're entitled to a pension, health care, and maybe a payout. Because that's how dangerous it is there. So anybody who works at Hanford, of course, Hanford's like they got 172 big tanks in the ground, which was an idiot idea in the first place. And they actually did put sludge down in the tanks. And so you got gammas, alphas, neutrons, and betas gathered up at the bottom of the tank, settling down, and then you started a criticality, and that burnt the hole through the tank, and everything just ran out. And they knew this. And the idea of the 172 tanks, because that was very visible, there's a lot of these pictures out there, was at the same time they dumped 1.4 million of those 300,000 gallon massive tanks directly into the soils and trenches. They got 40 miles of unlined trenches in just one area where they dump nuclear waste. Tanks. For more than 16 years, they lost $10 million potential pay after claims the workers were too often idle because they had no work assignment. Washington River Protection Solutions earned $32 million in incentive pays. So incentive pays was on top of the money that you were contracted. And then if you finished the job, you got what's known as an incentive pay. So imagine for incentive pay, you make an extra $32 million in 2024. It was eligible for a maximum of $50 million incentive pay. Well, thanks for coming in on work every day on time. Here's $50 million. So you'd have to bribe people to get anything done there because they're notoriously scared to go outdoors. I lost my spot here. Hang on. Here we go. The unearned paid included $4.5 million for some work that was not completed during the fiscal year 2024, right ended in September of last year, and $10.2 million for shortcomings in the Department of Energy assessment of its performance, which included criticism that workers were not assigned tasks in a nuclear wasteland. And the Department of Energy did not describe the non-work related activities. Workers napped, read, watched TVs and movies. When they were not assigned work. Well, what else are you supposed to do? You're at a massive nuclear dump. You can't just go out wandering around looking for work. They're picking up nails. The 580 square mile nuclear disease factory, Hanford site in eastern Washington, was used for World War II through the Cold War to produce plutonium. So they had 9 breeder reactors. The work left 56 million gallons of radioactive chemical waste awaiting treatment, storage in underground tanks. They dumped 450 billion gallons directly into the soil, which is equal to 1.4 million of those massive tanks, like the size of a 4-story house. They dumped it right into the soil. They got 172 tanks, 56 million gallons. And they refuse to acknowledge the 1 point. Sometimes they'll acknowledge. Some of the stories will acknowledge it, right? We've covered it. Not very often, though. We have covered it. Environmental cleanup is being done at a cost of about $3 billion a year, which is 365 days. That's $8 million, $8.2 million a day. They're only working 12 hours, though. So that works out to almost $700,000 an hour. Or for 12 hours? Yeah, divided by 12. For 12 hours. Every 12 hours they're spending... No, that's what they're spending an hour. Environmental cleanup is being done at a cost of about $3 billion. It's actually more than that. Hanford site waste tank work. During the first years, Hanford nuclear production dumped 450 billion gallons of radioactive liquids, sludge, into the soil. There's 177 tanks with 56 million gallons of lethal nuclear sludge currently at Hanford. So we know some of them have drained because of a criticality in the bottom of them. They have spent 30 billion or more on plans to seal that in glass. And so dumping 450 billion gallons is equal to 1.4 million of those 300,000 gallon tanks. So it's a wall of 1-ton bags of deadly radioactive waste by the liter, with 1,000 liters per bag, which is a ton, 6 feet wide, 518 feet tall around the entire planet Earth. USSR, the Soviet Union, China, India, and many other countries could and would have created similar nuclear waste. The Fukushima reactors, nuclear fuel pool meltdowns, was the tipping point for our nuclear power plant's assassinated planet. They have assassinated our planet. That's what the nuclear industry had done. And had done it with radioactive fallout. Excuse me. Hello, everybody. La 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 la. Kim Jong-un has no intentions of negotiating away nukes. Seeks a tactic nuclear power recognition, U.S. assessment finds. Yeah, of course they do. Why would you give away nuclear? So, North Korea was captured by Japan for 50 years. It was held hostage for 50 years. And then when Nagasaki, Hiroshima happened, they had to leave North Korea. Then United Nations, League of Nations, got a name change because of all the crimes they committed as the League of Nations. They changed their name to United Nations. And their first action, they went to war against North Korea. They called it a police action. But there was several million dead, millions missing, millions of refugee camps, millions unaccounted for, millions of orphans. They burnt down every village, every community, every city in the country by dropping napalm on it. And they called it a police action. That's the United Nations. The 195 militaries. The worst humans in history are United Nations. And if North Korea didn't have nuclear weapons, they would be there barbarizing. They already are, but they've been land, sea, and air embargoes against them for 70 years by the United Nations. So that's collective punishment against the country. So they've been ostracized from the entire planet, for over 120 years. Because Japan captured them and was barbaric what Japan was doing in North Korea for 50 years. It was disgusting. It's disgusting. It's despicable. And what the United Nations done is it's just like the most cowardly thing imaginable. And then not only that, they couldn't beat them, and so they got land, air, and sea embargoes against them for the last 75 years this year, is it? This is disgusting. Ooh. Longtime Cancer Care Foundation director Lynette Hillier passed away on March the 25th of cancer. She started her own cancer journey in 2017 when she was diagnosed. She died of cancer. New equipment, even a new chemo unit, really. Even a new chemo unit she raised money to get. Let me explain what happened to her. Because you see these sad stories all too often. Well, actually, let's go this way first. It's madness, isn't it? The whole thing is madness. Like chemo is the worst thing you can do. This is a peer review of the peer-reviewed study. The original conclusion based on facts was 1985. This conclusion was 2004. A 3% efficiency of chemotherapy treatment and cancer cure. So 3%, the conclusion based on facts collected by a worldwide research published in 2014. The overall contribution of curative and adjuvant chemo to a 5-year survival in adults was estimated at 2.3% in Australia, 2.1% in the United States. And you destroy the quality of life of the person. Based on this extensive document, it's clear to state that we're losing the war on cancer. In fact, I believe that this document is safe to say that we have actually lost ground with our new and improved synthetic man-made chemotherapeutic agents. And there's also chemoradiation therapy too, right? I'm going to show you some of that in a second. Granted, in 3% in 1985 was horrific. And all of our research dollars resulted in a negative 33% further decrease in benefits. Perhaps everyone should contemplate and think of chemotherapy as the alternative route. Because currently it's radiation and chemotherapy, right? That's what they... In Canada, they'll spend $900,000 on you if you got cancer, but you have to get chemo and radiation. Oh, but it's only 3%. And the 3% that survive more up to 5 years, less than 3% that survive up to 5 years have a horrible existence, right? Because you destroy all the cells in your body. The opposite. How can chemicals? Let's put chemicals in you to cure the flu, sure. Let's put chemicals in you because you can't sleep at night. I mean, this industry is insane. Here we go. Just let me try to articulate what radiation and chemotherapy does to you. And the people in the industry are just desensitized. Oh, well, you come in, they're like, okay, here we go, here's the radiation therapy. They know they're going to kill you, but they don't understand the bigger picture, or they just desensitize. Introduction of radiation injury, another silent epidemic. So radiation injuries, so you go get radiation therapy, and you get radiation injuries to your eyeballs and your visual pathway. You get radiation injuries to your heart. You get cardiac injuries following treatment for breast cancer from radiation-induced. You get radiation-induced kidney injuries. So all this might show up months later, a year later, 2 years later. You start having all these other radiation side effects, so it's called. Radiation therapy means you're going to get 6 times more cancer and you're less likely to live. Hypoxia associated with chronic radiation-induced lung injuries, because you're killing all the cells in your body. Your body has to repair everything. White blood cells displaces your red blood cells that carry oxygen and nutrition. Blood spinal cord barrier disruption, central nervous system radiation injuries, radiation-induced lung injuries, radiation-induced bowel injuries, radiation laser treatment. So instead of coming up with a real cure, it has to be this anthropogenic man-made material that they hit you with. Because that's the only thing you can get a patent on, right? Radiation-induced kidney injuries. So it's a genocide machine. Radiation injury litigation. Central nervous system radiation injuries. Injuries to the cranial nerves following proton beam radiation therapy. Radiation injury to the heads and neck. Radiation-induced brain injuries. I got a massive folder on academic studies of that. So why are they continuing to do it, I wonder? Radiation-induced regional lung injuries. Small bowel radiation injury from radiation therapy. Radiation-induced intestinal syndromes. By the way, vitamin C, heavy doses uptake may save lives after a radiation accident, or it might not. Because radiation is so nasty. Radiation-induced brain necrosis, and I can show you testimonies from parents of their children that had that done to them. Made them sick to their guts. Radiation-induced normal tissue injury. Radiation-induced rectal injury, my favorite. Spinal cord recovery from radiation injuries. Radiation therapy. Radiation injury to the aorta and branch arteries to your heart valves from radiation therapy. Radiation bowel injuries. Injuries of the central nervous system from radiation. So it destroys your whole body. Radiation lung injuries from the glands from radiation therapy. Radiation-induced liver diseases. Bile duct injuries from radiation. Radiation just wrecks you, eh? There is no radiation therapy. It's a genocide machine. And the people that are getting the heavy radiation are put in these $1 million rooms. They're lead-lined rooms. That's to protect the people in the hallways from not getting big doses of radiation from you. Do you really think for half a second that radiation is going to help you? No, Dana got rid of the tumor he had, and a couple of years later you got 8 more. Only way worse. Wake up. Radiation brain injuries. Like when the people that you go to for radiation, for cancer, dies of cancer, you just got to start asking yourself real questions. Are you just another genocide machine? Radiation brain tumors from radiation injuries. Study on radiation-induced brain injuries after radiation therapy. So you can call it, if you call it radiation therapy, you can murder everybody, apparently. Well, not apparently, that's the fact. That's how you get away with it. Oh, no, that's it, boy. It's radiation therapy. Win some, lose them all. You lose 98% of the people. You have 2% survival rate. So what's the point? You haven't learned your lesson yet, or you really... Yeah, but you get to tell your friends and families that you're a radiation therapist, right? That you work in the hospitals, you're special. Oh yeah, we lost another couple of cancer patients today. Oh, let me get you a cup of tea, you fucking murderer. Test battery for the assessment of radiation-induced brain injuries. If I can learn all this, find all this stuff, how come they can't? And it really bugs me, eh? It doesn't just irk me per se. It haunts me. Cognitive impairment in young patients treated with radiation therapy for a brain tumor. Well, the reason all these people got tumors in the first place is from radioactive fallout. It never goes away. You're producing it every day, and it never goes away. What do you think is going to happen eventually? Oh, that's right, everybody gets tumors. Guess where we're to at this point? When you got all these decades and all these just tens of thousands of hospitals exterminating you, and you still refuse to acknowledge it, that means you're a fucking idiot. You can pretend you're not, but you're a fucking idiot. You wouldn't believe how much of this I got. I have so much of it. When I first started gathering up, I think it was like 1,800. I had 1,800 of these stories and studies. And I couldn't even fucking operate for 3 days, 4 days or something. I just came to the realization that it's disgusting. It's a genocide, right? That's what radiation therapy is. That's a genocide. You can deny it all you want, but I can't. The evidence is just... It's not just overwhelming, it's just astounding that nobody else is vocally out trying to have a conversation about it. I get pretty despondent every time that I cover this stuff, right? And you see all these people, all these names, these are academics. No, how many of them names have I just showed you tonight? Awful amount of them, right? And they're all telling you, warning you, they're all trying to... Everybody ignores them, just... Okay, well, doctor, is there something you can do? Yeah, well, I just got to sign this paper here where you can't sue me or the hospital, and we'll give you some radiation therapy. That'll cure you. Sickos. It's a sickness, eh? That's what this industry is. It's one great big stupid mental disease. Serial killers, that's the best way to describe the industry. A hospital is a serial killer. Nuclear waste plant safe proponent regenerates. Look what they done after COVID, sure. Couldn't visit your loved ones when they were dying in the hospital. How do you get that evil, I wonder? Really? How can you let people just die by themselves, you pieces of shit? Nuclear waste plant is safe, proponents regenerate. They'll beat you up if you try to go there too. Arrest you. Anything to protect the genocide machine. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization here in Canada has said that if the radioactive fuel rods are transported by trucks, and remember that disgusting parasite from Ontario was saying, well, if there's an accident and the fuel spills out, you can just pick it up and put it back in the cast and away you go again. It's like, what are you talking about? They're in these 50,000-pound containers because that's what you can't do. The minute it's exposed to air, it blows, catches fire, burns at 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures, ignites the zirconium cladding does. That ignites the pellets, the uranium plutonium pellets. They burn at around 9,000 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures. Name me the guy who's going to run over there and pick that up again. That's what they do. They're professional lawyers and they're professional genocide machines. And you stuff everything down the big hole in the ground. That's your solution. You got to do something. Like everything's out there splitting atoms into the environment. This stuff never goes away. You get a single atom in your body, and you put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it. You get a single one in your body, you get a big fucking tumor eventually because your body builds a tumor around it with white blood cells. Then you go to the hospital, and then they bombard you with more radiation to finish you off. Radioactive, most of the cancer is radioactive fallout, right? The cancer clusters, cancer epidemic started in the 70s. So what was the catalyst that would have caused something like that to happen in the 70s? Well, it was all that nuclear bombs they were setting off worldwide. I mean, like the Soviet Union bomb was equal to 3,800 Nagasaki bombs, plutonium bombs. 3,800 Nagasaki bombs going off at the one time. If that's not a nuclear war, what is? Go look at what Nagasaki bomb looks like. Look up pictures of it. And imagine, multiply that by 3,800. And tell me that's not a nuclear war. So, if two countries throw 1,900 nuclear weapons, Nagasaki-sized 15-kiloton bombs at each other, that's a nuclear war, isn't it? That's a massive nuclear war, right? So when they say there's 2,000 nuclear bombs set off worldwide, remember one of them was equal to 3,800 of one of those bombs they're talking about. And say that Nagasaki is one of those 2,000 bombs. Right? They hide it away because they don't acknowledge that the bombs are different capacities, different sizes, and that matters. That's an important fact, right? It would be 2 or 3 shipments a day, approximately 9 months a year. 2 or 3 shipments a day for 9 months a year. Hang on. I made a bunch of pictures for that, I think, didn't I? Let me see if I can muster them up here. Oh, maybe we get lucky. Maybe not, because I created over 14,000 pictures. So, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yep, here we go. We got lucky. This will help you appreciate what I'm trying to say. It'll only take me a minute here. There we go. So the Nuclear Waste Management Organization is going to ship, everything is vented on the highway. Right, we know this from the Waste Isolation Pilot Project in New Mexico. And because they're going to repackage it at the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, so everything is vented. Because you're not going to seal the containers and open them. When oxygen rushes in there, it'll detonate, right? Jesus, scared the shit out of me. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Dana.
That's what's his face? Calm down, Charlie. What's he up to? I wonder. It's our personal stalker. It's been harassing us for many, many years, right? That's okay. They're the worst humans you ever created, on top of that. So, not only that, when you put all your nuclear waste down in a deep hole, eventually it melts down. Once one of it burns at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, everything burns at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. That's the wrong spot. And the prospect of loads, it's 5.5 million fuel assemblies. So that's the wrong word to be using, loads. Like, this stuff deserves the prominence of spent. Well, it's not spent. It's 3% so-called used, but in the context of nuclear, it's the reason it's called spent is because it starts to bulge, and if it deforms any more, then you won't be able to get it out of the reactor core. And so it's taken out early and put in a fuel pool. But it's 97% of its energy is still in the fuel. So the word spent is very deceptive and deceitful and dishonest and disingenuous. Just like Calm Down Charlie, who just called in there that time, right? Being hauled by transport trucks or rail cars through rural northwestern Ontario, Canada, to a future remote underground storage site that probably won't be up and running till 2040. Most of the opposition will be long gone by then, right? That's their plan. I don't like. They had the money for 23 years, $28 billion, or $26 billion. And they never grew a cent of interest. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization hasn't reported a single penny of interest growth. So how much money can you make on just, and this is the government on top of that, so how much money could you make just a typical investor if you had $26 billion just in the bank? You would make, say, 2%, right? And so over 23 years, that's a lot of money. But because it's the government, you know, they're going to invest in all kinds of other things and grow the money. So where is all the money? Because the taxpayers paid for all of this. And so they're entitled to know what happened to the investments, how much money was earned. And they have never reported a nickel. So they've been looting it, stealing the money. And so there's no incentive to build something because they got this big cash cow. And all they got to do is keep everybody divided. The whole story is crazy. 23 years with $26 billion, they haven't built nothing. They haven't grown a nickel of interest. Do you really think for a second that this industry is intending to do that? And now it says it won't even start production or putting stuff down or building the site till the 2040s. So the problem with the fuel is the splitting atoms. Right? That's the problem. And so the atoms are released directly into the environment because there's no containment. And that's why all your friends and loved ones, and so there's many issues and illnesses and diseases. There's heart problems and liver problems and lung problems and respiratory and pituitary and thyroid and adrenaline. There's Alzheimer's and dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia. Yeah, we got, that's right too, we got Calm Down Charlie pop song. This plays, they do it for badness. Jay's put together this song, I forgot about that. He's got a few now come out recently, Calm Down Charlie's. Really cool stuff too. Is that it there? Just give me a second here. Because there's a funny caveat to what I'm going to show you. Yeah, there it is. I had left a comment on this song. I'm going to play it for you. I want to read this to you. It's the perfect music for the nitty nuclear industry. I can almost see Calm Down Charlie in the morning skipping across his kitchen with a mirror in his hand, staring at his face and singing this out loud while his yellow Operation Long Jump nightie on, smoking a crack pipe. That's the guy who called in earlier. I'm going to play that for you just for badness here. And because... So picture Calm Down Charlie, the guy who called in just now, Mr. Dana guy, in a yellow nightie, skipping across the floor, singing this song. And you'll appreciate who Calm Down Charlie is.
Let's go. We're back in bloom, broccoli rose. Smiles stretch wide where no one goes. The bags are black, we crop them out, but the soil still knows what it's about. Atomic hope parade, march in line, pretend it's safe. Smile wide for every lens, just don't ask how the story ends. Oh, sweet and clean. Woo, radioactive dream. No talk of counts or iodine. They test the fish, but never mind. The isotopes all share the stream and settle soft into the dream. Just clean, just calm.
Towers blink behind the shot. No alerts, the meters rot. We film the joy, we share the grace, but
Crop the bag behind the face. Hush, hush now. Atomic hope parade, flags of green, checks delayed. We sing for all who watch and eat, but leave the fallout under feet. Oh, march and sway. La 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 la. Everything's okay. The core decays behind the hill, but PR shots look clean and still. We snack and dance and play pretend, but half-lives don't know how to end. Clap, clap, don't ask back. Tradition served in plastic wrap. Safety talks, then candy claps. We package grief in pastel bows and feed the zone where no one goes. Kawaii hope is pure, the footage smooth. No trace of data breaks the mood. Forget the maps, forget the rate. Just taste the joy, don't test the fate. Ah, Mo died your brew. The meters beep beneath the moss, but silence weighs less than the cost. We grow the yield, we serve it warm. The fallout dances past the form. Glow up, glow down. Wow, it's delicious! Atomic, atomic. Clap your hands and radiate. Hope is shining in disguise. Let's eat broccoli under lies. Yada! La 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 da da da. Da 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 la da 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 da.
I love it. So picture Calm Down Charlie skipping across his kitchen with a mirror in his hand, singing this every morning. And then you'd know who Calm Down Charlie actually is. That's really good, by the way, isn't it? Like, the beat-wise and the narrative. You got to kind of know a bit about nuclear to really get the full effect. But it's an ideal mocking song for the nuclear industry, because that's how they act, right? Like you're supposed to worship them. Yeah, you're all going to die from this stuff. Well, worship us because we're the nuclear industry. That's how they think, right? That's their mentality. Years of technical studies have shown that use nuclear fuel. Years of technical studies. Well, like how? These are not studies. You haven't got years of fuel being transported. Right? It's totally dishonest. Some citizen-based environment groups. Citizen-based. So if you're with the industry, you're scientists and you're academics. Anybody else, you're a citizen. Calling the New World Order's monstrous claims grossly irresponsible. They're 100% correct. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization is the industry. It's the worst humans ever created. like Calm Down Charlie, are in charge, right? Calm Down Charlie's job is with the Japanese government. They got Operation Long Jump, which is to destroy me, right? This, they threaten me. They call me up on the show, right? And actually threaten me. And if you go back, I'll show you. If you go back to evidence of the International Atomic Energy Agency deleting sections of law of anti-nuclear YouTube videos. You go back and watch that video. I might move it away with the devil there, an International Atomic Energy Agency. At the very beginning of it, I played Calm Down Charlie, the guy who called in, threatening me with Operation Long Jump. Like, clearly, it's a threat. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization is a scourge on humanity, like everything else in the nuclear industry. Inglis, of course, had an emergency vote and voted just days before they come out with the announcement. They said that the community was too stupid to have a referendum, so the town council in this little tiny hick town showed up with their Tim Horton donuts and their coffees, and he voted away the future of everybody there. Qualified support. You can't qualify support. The Lake Ojibwe Nation said, well, they didn't say, yeah, go ahead. They said, we'll continue on with the studies. A few days later, of course, the Nuclear Waste Management scumbag organization came out and said that Ojibwe had okayed the dump. And they came out and blatant and clearly disavowed that narrative. This project can only continue if we can prove that it was built safely in respect to the environment. Like, if you're going to read, everything is hemorrhaging out on the highways. Everything is vented. So it's all farmland all the way up. So that's going to be incredibly contaminated. When you get there, you're right in the middle of a massive farmland area. Right, at one point they had about 1,500 acres of prime farmland, and they needed 250 acres, a square kilometer or something, for the site where they're going to repackage everything. So everything is clearly vented. You can't seal it, get there, then open it up. It doesn't work that way. It has to be vented the whole time. Because once you let the oxygen out, once you introduce oxygen back in, it'll detonate in this environment. So everything is vented. And so then they're surrounded by farms, like they've got 1,500 acres, and in the middle of it is their 1 square kilometer site, which is 250 of the 1,500 acres. And they want to continue farming, and you'll see that narrative with all nuclear plants are surrounded by farms because the fuel pools are always hemorrhaging. Like the word respect the environment has nothing to do with nuclear. Nuclear can't exist by respecting the environment. Excuse me. Yeah, yeah. We need more anti-nuclear music is right. I mean, like, you remember when James came out with that Calm Down Charlie song? Calm Down Charlie came out the next day with a song of his own, right? Attacked me. I actually got it there. Hang on. Hello, Mr. Data. It's just the same as that phone call. Oh, here it is.
There is the Tokyo Bureau in the heart of Chicago. Fukushima meltdown.
Fukushima meltdown.
No radiation downtown. Festival of friendship. Miss Adena won't accept it.
Hello, Mr. Diner. This is Yoshida Mashada, Tokyo Bureau, Chicago Division. You
Guilty.
filthy scammer. You watch the Olympic Games, Mr. Diner? You enjoy Olympic Games?
Operation Long Jump.
Got the Tokyo Bureau in the heart of Chicago.
But if you go back and watch that video shown here earlier, where he's actually telling me about Operation Long Jump, I was arrested. I wasn't found guilty of threatening him. I was found guilty of, I got 6 gag orders, so I couldn't mention their names for 3.5 years, right? I couldn't mention the University of Victoria for 3.5 years. I couldn't mention the Victoria Police Department for 3.5 years. I couldn't mention Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution for 3 years. I couldn't mention the police officer who was prosecuting me for 3.5 years. And I went to a judge and had all the restrictions removed. Went to a provincial court judge 2 weeks later and had all the restrictions they put against me removed. And the judge said, come back in 1 hour, we'll have all the paperwork ready. And when I went back 1 hour later and got the paperwork, the county clerk there, so I've never seen that before. I've never seen a judge do something like that before. And everybody at the courthouse behind the counter, the county clerk's and that, came over and shook my hand. So Calm Down Charlie coming out and trying to use that conviction, and even the local prosecutors there said this was a kangaroo court. They brought in a judge from Nanaimo or Port Alberni to prosecute me. It was a kangaroo court, right? Everybody knew that. It was a slap suit on top of that. They dragged me into a different jurisdiction. It was 15 times or something. You used to have to take 2 ferries and drive 300 miles and get a hotel. And then come all the way back home again, or they would arrest you, right? You had to show up for each court appearance. It was really something what they done to me. It was the coward thing to do. I think they should kill all of you fuckers, personally. Well, that'll never change. You're fucking scumbags. In fact, they should throw you off a skyscraper or drop you in a fucking wood chipper. We are confident we will have a transportation plan that is safe, not only from a technical perspective. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization, no, they're just bully everybody. They got $26 billion. They can muscle their way through anything. They got $26 billion. They got a massive amount of interest that they're not disclosing and that they don't own. This money belongs to the Canadian taxpayers, but yet they're using that money to pay off the communities. They're the lowest. They're always, everything they do is the lowest form of life routine. So now they're calling it the underground storage site, formerly known as a deep geological repository. So why would they change the name? Oh, underground storage site, deep geological repository. Because the repository is forever, whereas a storage is temporary. So they're planning on retrieving it. Has yet to be built. It will start receiving waste in the early 2040s/50s. Why are you waiting so long? Why did you wait 23 years to announce a place? And you had $26 billion for 23 years. You never grew a cent of interest? The annual report says that used nuclear fuel transport has taken place on the Canadian roads since the 1960s. Very little of it. There has never been an incident causes harm to people or the environment due to the radioactive nature of the content. That's simply not true. And they don't give them a name, and they say it's in an email. So you have no idea who they're talking about, no way of questioning that narrative, no way of investigating who said it. Anything that you transport is vented, which means you're harming people. Not only that, the gamma shines, the neutron bombardments, the beta rays, the alpha rays, the X-rays are harming everybody on the highway. And it goes back to a story we covered last year about Australia had lost. Australia had lost this little, one of their construction measurement pieces of equipment. And there was a piece there about, I don't know if you can see that. Probably need some color, maybe on my shirt or something. I'm holding that hand. So you can see this little element anyway. It's not very big. I'm holding in my hand. The last piece about that big was full of cesium, somewhere on the 1,200 mile road in Australia. And what they done was they drove along in a truck with the Geiger counters and eventually found it because it gives off such a big signal. And they said the average person driving past that on the highway at 60 miles per hour got the equivalent of a chest x-ray. So imagine taking tons of this stuff, not like a gram, but tons of it. What do you think is going to happen to the people on the highway and the communities you're driving by? And everything is vented, because it's splitting atoms the whole time. Proposed frequency has caused some rural Thunder Bay municipalities, including Conmee Township, to pass resolutions against transporting the fuel rods across the boundaries, and given the high rate of serious crashes across northwestern Ontario involving heavy trucks. So there's communities that they got to get through have now made it illegal for them to drive through. That's fantastic. Now O'Connor and like-minded groups they believe, but they're wrong, that it makes more sense to keep the spent fuel rods close to where they're used at nuclear plants. Well, first off, the nuclear plants are on the Great Lakes. And, where they want to put it to is there's over 7,000 ponds. So you don't want to go there either. That's what this industry does. It looks for places that can poison, particularly water. They hate water. The nuclear industry hates all the water on the planet. You can't leave it at the site. That's a serious mistake. Clearly, they got good intention, but they don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand the enormity of the issue. And that's okay, because they got time to figure it out. Mission impossible, now possible. These high-tech robots to heroically clean. This is bizarre. Robots are heroes nowadays, folks. 2,850 radioactive sandbags from Fukushima plant. Heroically. We really do live in the Twilight Zone, don't we? Heroically. Oh, man. That backfired. Hang on a second. Let's try that again. That's not quite the way I pictured this playing out tonight here. Let me see if I can fix something. Bear with me here. Some days are like that. I'll figure it out. Just give me a second. More than a second, but so the Hulk is the hero. Okay, fuck, smurfed that up, did I? So the Hulk is your hero. I screwed up. How can I screw this up any worse, I wonder? I apologize to everybody. So you got, created by the industry, you got Spider-Man is your hero. The Hulk is your hero. You got all kinds of heroes, right? Kids heroes are all fictional cartoon characters. They're heroes. Anything fictional can be a hero, like the nuclear industry, right? You even got GoPro hero. and Guitar Hero. But no real heroes, right? Mom and pop can't be heroes. Grandparents can't be heroes. All the industry produces is body counts. But don't worry, because now we got robots that are heroes. So we got all these fictional cartoon characters displacing grandparents and aunts and uncles from being heroes. Only robots now and cartoon characters can be a hero. It's a pretty shitty planet, man, that the industry is. We had a beautiful planet. If nuclear never showed up, this planet would be amazing. You would be thrilled every day. There'd be amazing species everywhere. It would literally be paradise if the nuclear industry didn't exist. But because they exist, they killed off in increments over 80 years the majority of the species. Now, because of Fukushima's pulse event, we got a worldwide massive ongoing radioactive fallout that is the catalyst behind an extinction level event. A cutting-edge robot navigates the hazardous corridors of the Fukushima Daiichi. Well, there's no proof for that, right? We don't have any proof of this. This is not proof. The use of robotics ensure the safety of human workers. You know, the homeless and destitute and the victims of society, the immigrants who don't speak the language. It's not like there's nuclear scientists at the site. Because that's who's there, right? Is the most vulnerable of society who don't know what they're doing. That's why they call me up and harass me during the show, for instance. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster 2011 remains a significant event in the history of the nuclear energy. Significant! You had 36 reactor cores melt down at the one time in less than 4 days. This was on March the 15th. You have Reactor 1, Reactor 2, Reactor 3, Reactor 4. At the top of each of the buildings was 8 reactor cores. So 36 reactor core total melted down. That's 36 reactor cores. I'll show you that coming up in a bit. Exposure rates soared to 4.4 sieverts per hour. Well, where does that number come from? It has to be 4.4 sieverts per liter is more like it. Because the numbers we got is 2.2 sieverts per liter. So how do you end up with just 4.4 sieverts? They don't care about humans. They incinerate everybody that dies there, the homeless and the destitute, and they give the urns to a monastery, rather, because this industry is just perpetually evil. It's just an evil industry. Hey, calm down, Charlie called in just now. You have no idea how sadistic that sack of shit actually is. Here's Frank von Hippel. Frank is going, just a short video. And this was March the 16th, 2011. He was asked how many reactor cores are in the fuel pools of the building. So he's talking about just a single building, reactor number 4. All the buildings are identical. I'll be right back.
And if, in terms of what we know about the capacity, about how many fuel rods would likely be inside that reactor, what sort of quantity are we talking about radioactivity?
I've heard different numbers ranging from 2 to 15 reactor cores worth. No, 2 to about 8 reactor cores worth.
So if it can't be controlled, that's worst case scenario, 8 reactors worth of radioactivity.
Right. Right.
And it would be released into the atmosphere.
Radioactivity. By the way, the fact that this has happened at unit number 4 is understandable and is consistent with the theory that it really did dry out because the fuel from the unit number 4 was most recently discharged. Okay. And therefore was the hottest, and therefore the water would have boiled off more rapidly.
So there would have been 9 reactor cores in the fuel pool. Bum, 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 bum. Da, 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 da. Like, why is Calm Down Charlie worried about me? I got 16 people on my show. 22 likes, 25 votes. For something that takes me all day to put together. They're hoping they can discourage me, but they don't understand. I like what I do. I gotta do it. Even if nobody watches it, I gotta do it. Or I can't sleep for a week. Okay. Alrighty, how do we do here tonight? Hour and 46 minutes. I almost want to play that song from James, because it's such a freaky song, eh? I'm going to play that Calm Down Charlie, Tokyo Rose's grandson, as a closer tonight, because I really dig the switch that James has. He went from, he doesn't do it very often, but every once in a while he'll put out kind of catches you from the left. So Calm Down Charlie, Tokyo Rose's grandson. And he does all the graphics in these videos himself with AI. So it's very cool stuff. Just let me do the setup for this. I want to make sure I got it in the high quality before I play the audio. Oh, apparently I made a mistake. That's already in my favorites. I kind of love like the details, because everything is in the details, right? And he's got an absurd amount of details in this stuff. Here we go.
Static? Charlie tapping lines again. Grossy still pressing buttons in Vienna. Talking shit from a desk.
Oh, Mr. Dino!
Charlie call in like you know that code. Voice cracked up, couldn't hold that load. Say Tokyo, but the heat ain't there. Talk real greasy from a folding chair. Say Dana line, say he got no facts, but we see Melt and we know the tracks. Grossy feed scripts from a lockbox room. Just a big play with a clickbait boom. Boom, boom. He say just wait. Long jump soon, he gon' test fate. Tokyo Rose got a grandson troll. Call up Dana, try to play that role. Say operation, voice off stage. Stream stay live, he just sound caged. Scripts don't hit that bluff too clean. He don't debate, he repeat the screen. Say just you wait, but the call don't land. Whole thing run by Grossy's hand. Grossy push papers, slide that task. Charlie just read from a handler mask. He claimed Meltdown never took place, but the water still flash and the rod still trace. He say scam show, then his line cut quick. Trying to frame Dana like a Netflix flick, but the crowd stay locked. Cams don't shake, truth sit heavy and the call sound fake. Stream tab live, troll line trace. No name filed, burner in place. Long jump moving, playback fake. Call don't shake, feed don't break. Just noise on the burner, no seat at the table.
Oh, Mr. Dino!
Tokyo Rose got a grandson troll. Call up Dana, try to play that role. Say operation, voice off stage. Stream stay live, he just sound caged. Scripts don't hit that bluff too clean. He don't debate, he repeat the screen. Say just you wait, but the call don't land. Whole thing run by Grossy's hand.
About radiation.
You shut your
nuclear.
pie hole.
He know a lot more than you.
Hold
You're
on.
stupid, man.
Until piece of shit. Hey, what are you gonna be when you grow up?
Okay, sit. Oh, you don't make me sick. Mr. Thunderfoot, you're gonna be finished. You're gonna be finished.
Charlie call loud, voice all nerves. Long jump leak got prepped in curves. Just you wait, but the tone ain't land. He a ghost line tool from the V and a brand. Dana still drop with the feed in frame while while Charlie repeat like a rerun game. Say Mr. Dana, then mute come fast. As I ain't real, that ghost don't last. Rose ran psyops, now we on script. Grossy feeding trolls from a fax board trip. Calm down, Charlie out.
Do you like my t-shirt?
Of Tokyo Bureau.
Do you like that?
Tell you about friend of Tokyo Bureau.
Piece of shit.
Radiation.
You shut your pie
nuclear.
hole.
He know a lot more than you.
That's so awesome, man. I love it. Alrighty, I'm going to close the poll down. I'll see everybody hopefully tomorrow night. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. You have a great night. A great day tomorrow. I'll see you on the next show. Get over there and give James a thumbs up on that stuff, man. That's fantastic. Have a nice night, everybody. Take care.